Do you panic when you see y equals mx plus b on the SAT? Stop right there. Today I'm going to break down all you need to know about linear equations and how to solve these type of questions if you see them on the SAT. So of course, I'm going to share my screen so that you can see, what it is that you need to pay attention to. So when we talk about linear functions, yes, typically it's going to be in the form y equals mx plus b. Now, there's some things that we want to highlight here. M is your slope, okay? And when we talk about the slope, usually you might hear the term rise over run. So it's really talking about the steepness of the line, right? How steep it is. B is going to be your y-intercept. And usually we see the y-intercept as 0b because x is usually 0. And so your y-intercept is typically, this is going to be your y-axis and your x-axis. If you graph it in a plane, your linear equation is going to be a line. And this is where your b would be. So this would be your y-intercept, okay? So whenever you hear y-intercept, it's asking you, where does this line cross the y-axis? And so every time you see a line on your SAT exam or in your practice exam, basically it's asking you to tell a story, right? Usually they're asking you like, what is the rate? Things like that. How fast is something changing? That's what's happening when it comes to SAT questions. So if we were to look at your slope, this is going to be very important because they ask a lot about that. While it's rise over run, the formula is going to be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And this is given 2 points x1, y1. So that's the 1. And x2, y2. Okay, so given any 2 points, we should be able to get your slope. So your slope also is a way to tell you if you have like an increase in line or decrease in line. So if your line is increasing from left to right, that means we have a positive slope. This means it's going to be a positive number, basically. Your slope is going to be positive. Usually this is your slope. M is your slope. And then if your line is decreasing from left to right, then we have a negative slope. Okay, that's going to be a negative slope. So sometimes you're on the exam and you want to be able to eliminate different things when it comes to your slope. If you're asked, oh, what is the slope of this line? And the line is increasing, then you can automatically, we talk a lot about, process of elimination. You can automatically eliminate the negative ones, right? Because if it's increasing, your slope must be positive, right? Things like that. Now, when it comes to finding your intercepts, you can always graph it on Desmos. I talk about that a lot. But what if you get your equation in the form ax plus by equals c? So this is your standard form. So this here up here is usually, this is what we call your slope-intercept form. Okay, because you can quickly identify your slope and your intercept. This is the standard form. And in this form, they love to check this, right? This is not, it's essentially not standard slope-intercept form. So sometimes students get messed up on here. But I will tell you this, your intercepts are going to be if you want to find the y-intercept, well, the x-intercept or the y-intercept, it's going to be c divided by a and c divided by b. Okay, and we can show you why this makes sense. So when you're finding the x-intercept, right, usually we set y equal to 0 and we solve. So in essence, if we set y equal to 0 in this form, so you have ax plus b times 0, right? So that goes away because it's now 0. So you have ax equals c. So your x-intercept is c divided by a. That would be your x-intercept. And similarly, your y-int. So that's going to be when x is 0. And so we have, again, ax plus by. Well, in this instance here, we're going to let x be 0. Now, I don't know why we're going to let x be 0. For some reason, this isn't working. Okay, that's 0 equals c. So this becomes 0, and then you have by equals c. So your y-intercept is c divided by b. So this is just a quick hack so that you are able to find your intercepts really quickly to see where the line crosses your y-axis or your x-axis. All right. Now, a lot of times on the SAT, they ask about parallel lines, right, and perpendicular lines. So what you have to know here is that parallel lines, now they're going in the same direction. So they never meet, right? And they have the same steepness. So that means they have the same slope, okay? Parallel lines have the same slope. So that's going to be very essential. Now, perpendicular lines, on the other hand, they meet at a 90-degree angle. So they have negative reciprocal slope, right? What does that mean? So that means if you have, let's say, M1, let's call this line 1, right? So if M1 is 2, okay, that means that since these two lines are perpendicular, it's going to be negative reciprocal. You're going to flip your fraction. If you think about 2, you can write that as 2 divided by 1. So since you can write that as 2 divided by 1, when you flip it, it becomes 1/2. And then, of course, you're doing the negative of that. Okay? So perpendicular lines and parallel lines, they ask a lot about those. All right, now next, what they also like to do is ask you, okay, find the slope of a line passing through 2 points. Okay, now, if you know the formula, this would help. So for instance, let's say you're asked to find the slope of a line passing through 2, 3, and 6, 11, right? So recall we said that it's going to be what? y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. That's going to be my slope. And so let's call this x1. Well, actually, let's call this one x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so you just plug in. So you have 11 minus 3 divided by 6 minus 2, right? So this is going to be 8 divided by 4. So my slope is 2. So you can find your slope that way, but sometimes they ask you to actually find the equation of the line, and let's say put it in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. A lot of times students get tripped up on this part of things, but when we look at your slope-intercept form, Let me see here. I was looking for the eraser. There it is. Okay, so what we do here, we pick a point. So I'm going to say, let's use 2, 3. All right. And I want to use also my slope. We said m is 2. So if m is 2 and that, I can plug in because this is my x, this is my y. So then it means 3 equals m is 2. So 2, my x is 2 plus b. So I need to solve for b. So 3 is equal to 4 plus b, right? And I need to figure out what b is. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So -1 is b. Now putting it all together, I have b and I have m. So my equation becomes y equals 2x minus 1. Okay, so for these type of questions, you're just going to substitute in what you find for b and what you find for m. So typically, you just want to find your slope and then, grant the equation of the line. So in essence, that's really the different type of things you will see on the SAT related to slope and your linear equation. So don't freak out when you see these things on the SAT. I just kind of gave you a quick overview of majority of the things that you might see. There are more types of questions that you may see, but to be honest with you, majority of the questions are focusing on these concepts. So if you can use this as a refresher before you go into test day, you should be great. All right. So hope this was helpful. Do like, share, and subscribe. Send this to a friend or a child who you think needs to get a refresher on linear equations before they head into the SAT. On this channel, our sole purpose is to bridge the wealth gap. And I do that by sharing knowledge and also sharing SAT prep tips so that students can increase their SAT scores and graduate debt-free. So until next time, see you.